Hi there, my name is Naomi Karth. I am a Young Living Silver. I am married to a wonderful man, Sam, who is a partner in our Young Living business. And then I also have an 11-month-old son named Jerome. And this is my class. I'm going to do 3 videos. It's a 3-part series about using essential oils to help support normal emotions. So this first video is going to be about why my husband and I needed to have support for our emotions, and then the second video will deal specifically with what we did, and then the last video will just be some tools and things that you can use as resources. I'm trying to keep this class down to about half an hour because I know everyone's busy and I'm busy too. My husband is currently distracting my son so that I can get this done. So bing, bang, boom, let's go. So shortly after I joined Young Living in 2013, my best friend passed away at the age of 26. It was really hard to process, and I didn't have much time to really do much because 3 weeks later, Sam's 2 youngest sisters were killed in a horrible car crash. Honestly, the oils didn't get used much at first because we were just kind of surviving. I wouldn't call it living. We were just trying to make it through each day. And fast forward a couple months and I started using the oils a little more, getting more comfortable with them. Eventually got Sam on board. And it wasn't until I think it was in the fall that they made an impact in Sam's life, and his oil that ended up really helping was Joy. And then if you skip ahead a couple of years, I had been told that probably wasn't going to ever have children on my own, and we like to gamble a little with odds, and so we did everything we could to promote a healthy lifestyle and make sure that my body was naturally in balance, and I lost weight and just really worked on getting healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally. And so we were a little surprised when in the fall of 2015 I found out I was pregnant. Had to use 3 pregnancy tests to prove to my husband that I actually was in fact pregnant, and I'm not sure he even really believed me until he heard that heartbeat. So the pregnancy was awesome. I actually ended up using Joy daily because we had earlier in our marriage experienced some really early miscarriages, and so I wanted to have Joy in my pregnancy, so I actually used Joy over my heart and sometimes over my belly every single day. And I think that that's part of why I have such a happy baby. But it also allowed me to enjoy pregnancy and not have every day just plagued with the worries that often come when you're pregnant. However, we did not make it to our June due date. I was actually hospitalized on my birthday. Despite doing everything we could to stay healthy, to be healthy in pregnancy, I ended up being hospitalized for preeclampsia, and they told us we didn't have a choice. We had to do an induction. The baby needed to come, and the sooner the better. Luckily, the OBs and the midwife that were there were really supportive of us still trying to go as natural as possible. They allowed me to use oils first to start the induction. However, things just never really progressed as fast as they wanted, and they kept doing more medication and pushing me. They kept pushing me to get pain meds and an epidural, which I kept denying because I was doing fine. Actually, I loved being in labor. I loved the connection that I had with Jerome. At that point, we didn't really know he was Jerome, but I had a pretty good feeling he was. I was really supported by Sam and the doula that we had hired, and then I also had a lot of support from a couple of the nurses. However, the tables turned really, really quickly when Jerome decided that he'd had enough and his heart stopped beating. And that's when things got scary, and they got scary fast. It was sort of like the horrible emergency C-sections that you see in movies. That's the way it felt. It was like everything was just happening like so quickly. Nothing was lost complete control. And like before I knew it, they were wheeling me down the hallway. I was telling my husband I loved him because I didn't have a choice. I had to be general anesthesia. So they had to hold me down to knock me out because I lost it in the OR, And I mean, you know, you're naked, you're vulnerable, no one's telling you what's going on. It is a ridiculous, scary thing. They really should just have somebody there to talk you through it all. And of course you wake up and you don't have a baby because he was 2 months early and he's up in the NICU. So the first time I ever got to see Jerome was a picture on my cell phone. And my husband was amazing through all of this. He had been diffusing stress away constantly. He kept applying it to me. He was diffusing it in my room afterwards, and he put it on me every time I went to pump. And I feel like he was actually a huge part of why breastfeeding ended up being successful despite all the odds that we went through. But I kept having nightmares. I'd wake up and I wouldn't be pregnant anymore. And so I had to grieve the process of, not losing those last 2 months of pregnancy, and grieve losing the birth I wanted, and dealing with the trauma of the really scary situation. And I'm incredibly grateful that my son is healthy and that I made it through healthy. Even though I'm still dealing with some physical side effects from having the general anesthesia. But I definitely experienced birth trauma. And the important thing to know about birth trauma is if you are wondering if you have birth trauma, you absolutely do. It's really an eye of the beholder kind of thing. And, I have birth trauma. It left me with nightmares and the inability to leave the house, and I would be overwhelmingly anxious. And at first, I was using some oils, but it was sort of a half-hearted getting Sam off my back kind of thing. And I didn't really start healing until about 8-9 months postpartum. The first couple of months I spent was almost exclusively skin to skin with my baby, just enjoying and trying to connect because I didn't get a mommy moment, and so I wasn't connected to him when I first started to meet him, and we had to go through bonding. Then I started using oils, but I was using them more because Sam was bugging me about using them than because I actually had interest in healing. And then he purchased a book for me, which I'll share in a later video here. I ended up purchasing a book for myself about healing, and using those, we found some tools that helped us reach a point where life is somewhat more normal now to us, and I feel like we're living. We're not just dragging through the motions. And I still get anxious about leaving. I have times when I need to see Jerome. He needs to be within my eyesight, or I need to be holding him. But it was overwhelmingly out of control at first, and now oftentimes I can just remind myself that he's okay, I'm okay, and that things are going to be okay even if someone is holding him. So that's the basics of what all we went through. And if you finish that and you feel like you're in similar circumstances, I'm here to tell you that there is hope. There's definitely healing that can be had, and essential oils are wonderful for that, because your brain utilizes them so well, and so they go through the emotional center of your brain when you're inhaling them, and if you're applying them, you're still smelling them, so they work incredibly quickly in your brain. And I feel like they were really part of the great success that we've had. So, end of part 1, part 2 to come shortly.